Welcome to Chapter 5 of Module 3 in the Anamorphic Cookbook. We're coming to a close on our talk about cameras, and today we'll be looking at monitoring a desqueezed image, ideally on camera, but also through other devices and what's important to know to ensure you're framing correctly. In the remaining video for this module, we'll discuss why the is the best budget option for shooting anamorphic, outclassing many pricier setups. If you're new here, make sure to check the previous episodes as I covered plenty of ground so far. The list includes anamorphic modes, crop marks, an explanation on sensor sizes and focal reducers directly related to anamorphic shooting, as well as an in-depth explanation of the importance of your camera mount and its flange distance. On the topic of content, members of the channel get more cookbook all the time. Memberships unlock early access videos, you get your name on the credits for non-sponsored content, and you get a ton of support through me and our awesome Discord group, where we discuss all sorts of anamorphic shooting subjects. So check the join button below and sign up. Now let's talk about desqueezing your footage while shooting. When you're recording or watching playback without proper gear, this is how everything looks. Oh, and this is the mild setting at 1.33 squeeze. Traditionally, this is the look. Looks easy? Can you tell me where your CinemaScope frame crops out? Are we gonna lose the top and bottom or the sides? Are these two characters too far apart from each other for a single shot after desqueeze and crop? Or are they too close together and will have empty space on both sides? I've shot a bunch like this, but I was also the only one looking at the monitor, and I had hundreds, if not thousands of hours of looking at footage like this. And I still sometimes mess up without desqueeze. So we need to get the picture fixed up for you, the cinematographer, first of all. And when you're working with a team, you don't want to show them footage looking like this. Absolutely not. They will not be happy, I can promise you that. Which gives us the second problem, a bonus in this chapter, to desqueeze footage outside of the camera. Let's tackle desqueeze for you first. Ideally, you want a camera that can address the issue without extra gear. And unfortunately, most of them don't have that functionality. That's why once I went over to Panasonic, I never went back. All their cameras offer anamorphic desqueeze. The Panasonic GH5, released in 2017, only does 1.33 and 2 times. And anything newer gives you multiple desqueeze factors to choose from. Even the GH4 back in 2015 already offered in-camera desqueeze. Looking at the S1H, we have 1.33 times for Sure and other adapters, 1.3 times for Hawk lenses, 1.5 times for Escaramas and Bolexes, 1.8 for Vazen and Cook, and 2 times for almost everything else under the sun. You will find these same settings on the GH5S and BGH1, which are the updated versions of the GH5, as well as in all S-series cameras. My favorite aspect of in-camera desqueeze is it works with any of the recording settings, be it anamorphic mode or without anamorphic mode. I can do 16:9 and 2 times lenses, or 4:3 and 1.33 times lenses. And the camera will adjust the size of the image to match the squeeze of my lenses. There are a few outlier squeezes that would be great to see in there, like 1.75 and 1.6, but they're close enough to 1.8 and 1.5 times respectively that we can eyeball the results. The difference is nothing like the example at the beginning. In combination with desqueeze, activate crop marks or frame guides as we saw in Chapter 2. On Lumix cameras, the combination of these two features will highlight what will be your final frame and mask anything else being recorded. I find this particularly useful to assess if I can fix framing issues in the edit or if I really need another take before moving on. My only complaint is not being able to crop into the image. For example, if I'm shooting on a 16:9 setting and using a 2 times lens, the desqueezed image looks like a tiny strip with a tiny box for my 2.39:1 framing. Sometimes I wish I could just punch into the marked area and hide the rest, but I understand why this can be a challenge to do in camera. As a solo shooter or camera operator, I appreciate a rig that's smaller and lighter without an extra monitor just to address this squeeze. An extra monitor is the kind of added cost that can be prohibitive when putting together your first rig. I mean, in-camera Desqueeze plus Surrey lenses gives me a rig I can put in my backpack and shoot freestyle anytime, anyplace. So the base of getting your picture desqueezed is covered. Let's talk about setting the frame for your team. As of writing, only Zcam can deliver the corrected image through HDMI, which means external monitors also have to feature desqueeze settings. Lucky for us, these settings are now quite popular. While sometimes not straightforward, you can usually get these numbers to line up after trial and error on even the cheapest monitors. The one thing I find most important when looking at monitors is how bright they are. From my experience, 2000 nits or candela per square meter is bright enough to be usable outside on a sunny day and still overpower reflections. It's awful when you're trying to get a shot and can only see yourself reflected in the monitor because it isn't bright enough. I'm a big fan of the small HD monitors, and I've had a 702 Bright for several years now. They offer many default values for Desqueeze, plus a custom value that covers every option you can think of. On top of that, you can set a crop preview that will discard everything out of your defined frame and maximize screen real estate. I also value monitors that act as signal pass-through with inputs and outputs, allowing you to extend the chain to more monitors instead of being a dead end. This is particularly important if you're adding a monitor to your camera rig and want to feed the signal to more people, covering the rest of your team. With all that said, small HD is pretty pricey. So my budget suggestions for monitors are FeelWorld's 7-inch models, since the 5-inch are usually too dim, or Fotka's C or E50 models. Swit also offers some 7-inch models that are super bright, but the overall criticism to all these brands is the menus and settings are quirky at best and slow to respond to input. Another option is to full-on bypass your camera's internal recording and use a monitor recorder like Atomos or Blackmagic. RAW over HDMI is being offered by more and more camera makers these days, and nothing beats RAW footage when it comes to versatility in post-production. So if you're in the market for an external monitor, or your camera doesn't offer anamorphic support, or you just want a stronger recording format, an external recorder is the way to go. Atomos' Ninja 5 is the most affordable option at the moment. It offers multiple desqueeze ratios and is compatible with a wide array of cameras with HDMI outputs. On a slightly higher price bracket is Blackmagic's Video Assist 12G, which brings a brighter screen and takes SDI as well as HDMI. Plus, it records Blackmagic RAW. Bruh. The Video Assist doesn't offer as many choices of desqueeze though, but a weird 1.66 times option? Thanks to recent firmware updates, a lot of Panasonic cameras can now work with either external recorder, catering to your choice of format, ProRes RAW or B-RAW. When it comes to just monitoring though, I haven't found anything that beats Small HD, although I do have my eyes on recording B-RAW out of the S1H. And in the end, if your camera can desqueeze on its own, you don't even need to buy an external monitor. Most of the time, I just roll with the camera and lenses anyway. So if you're a solo shooter or you rent gear for bigger shoots, but like to use your camera for independent projects, I can't stress enough how great it is to have a camera that can do this on the fly. Now that we're clear on the subject, it's time to move on. The next video will cover my favorite camera when shooting scope, and I gotta say, it was a relief to have Panasonic sponsor this module because I had the script written for way longer than the cookbook itself. And I'm sure other camera brands wouldn't be too happy about my choice. To get the next chapter as soon as it's out, subscribe to the channel before going away. And if you're not a member, you can sign up for a membership right now and get the video immediately, as members usually trail a month ahead of everybody else in access to original content. Let's wrap this up. Like the video and tell me about your current setup in the comments below. How are you monitoring your scope footage? I'd love to know if I missed any options. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Tjute verhaddings, out.